Start or people jumping in? I don't know what we're supposed to be doing. Hi, hello. Lots of cameras here.
There's a lot of people.
Yes.
I'll let you guys know when we start.
Okay.
Don't start yet. I'll let you guys
Oh. Where are we going?
Anywhere.
Okay, so my character is Assistant District Attorney Antonio Montez, who's not in the books in the Stephen King books. Is a creation of Dennis Lehane and David E. Kelly, and he is in charge of the homicide division, and so he's in charge of. He would be prosecuting Brady Hartsfield if Brady Hartsfield was not in a coma. So his whole idea is sort of hoping that Brady Hartsfield wakes from this coma so he can then put him on trial, like sort of he's hoping is the trial of the century and propel his career forward because he has aspirations for sort of like higher political power. He doesn't want to remain the ADA for homicide in Bridgeton, Ohio. He's thinking more like Senator, Montez, President Montez. He has a career track that he's trying to go down, and he's using Montez, and in some ways he's using also Dr. Babineau, Felix Babineau, to sort of like, you do what you need to do to wake this guy up. So because I want to put him on trial, and I want to become famous. I want to be a rock star lawyer.
Do we see other cases that he's working on, or is it specifically?
No, for the purpose of the show, he's just solely focused on this case because he knows that it's a career maker, and he'll do kind of whatever it takes in order to do it. To even if it means being a little shady with the laws that he's supposed to be enforcing. Well, what's great about that is there's no expectation from the audience of having to live up to something. Like, if you do something like I was in Marvel films, and my characters in those films was a 6'2" blonde white guy. I clearly am not that person. So some people were like, well, he doesn't look like the one in the comics, and so there was none of that hang up in this because it was completely free. It was actually very liberating because I didn't have to live up to some idea that a reader had about the character. Thank you.
So it sounds like things are going to be quite different from the book, because I know the second book is kind of a weird one. It's kind of a side story in a way for most of the book.
Yeah.
Will the through line of this season be completely separate from that book? If that book run it at all?
Well, I think what happened with this, I believe in the second book, Finders Keepers, the characters from the first book don't show up to like page, like halfway, 200, page 200 or something like that. And so for a show where these are the main, characters, it's kind of hard to push a story with all new people, and then you kind of like forget the other people. So the writers had to sort of take an amalgam of the second book and also part of the third in order to push the story forward and have some sort of like even flow where people can get some sort of resolution from season one and how season one ended.
Do you have any funny stories working with the cast?
Well, yes, working with the cast is fantastic. Everyone got along really well. Everyone's really sweet, and we all love this show, and we love the crew. I have a habit of scaring crew members. In particular, one of our camera assistants, Tracy. So whenever she would slate, I would scare her to death, and she would jump. But the thing is, we did 10 episodes, and in all 10 episodes, I scared her every single time, every day that I worked. And at the end, And so when we did a big scene in our last episode, and it was the last day of work, and she knew it was coming, and I'm like, and then I was joking around with her, I'm gonna get you something, and she's like, I'm prepared. Like at this point, I'm prepared, and then it was a very big scare, and everyone started screaming and applauding, and then she was like beet red because I told her, I said, I was gonna get you. It's the last day of work. Why would you not think that I was gonna scare you? It was good, and it's all caught on camera. So I'm sure there'll be a blooper reel of that.
Do we learn anything about his private life, or is it all just?
Yeah, so you do learn about his private life. You do enter the home of Antonio Montez, and something very interesting occurs when you enter his life. Something that is shocking, and something that the audience, I don't think, will be prepared for. And it sort of triggers something in Antonio Montez to sort of like seek out his own form of justice. Yeah. So there's a lot of sort of bending of the law, something that he's held so close to himself, and always like sticking to the law, and especially him being a prosecutor. And he's had to have moments where he's like, screw it, I want my own form of justice for this thing that happened.
What is your character's relationship with Bill Hodges?
Contentious. I would say I'll give you this tidbit. It doesn't reveal anything, but it's very contentious at the beginning. They kind of do a dance around each other in relation to Brady Hartsfield, but over time they find that they are a lot better suited to be partners, as opposed to like being sort of on the opposite sides of what they believe justice should be. Yeah. So it starts off contentious, and then it sort of like melds into like, okay, well, I don't really like you all that much, but why don't we like just kind of like learn to be around each other and not, and kind of be on the same side.
You sound well versed in the book trilogy. Were you aware of it before you became involved?
No, I was not. No, I did not become. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of it, and I watched and I hadn't even seen the first season of the show. And then when they told me that they wanted me to be a part of the show, I watched it, and I was really first of all, I should have known it's a Stephen King take on the detective novel, so I should have known it was going to be dark and twisted, and I didn't realize just how twisted it was going to be, in particular with the Kelly Lynch as Ma Hartsfield and Brady and their relationship. That was like pretty crazy and very sort of like hard to watch at times. But it's typical Stephen King fashion. It was like it's supposed to shock. It's supposed to sort of like stimulate maybe a deep part of yourself that you don't want to be around. But it was fascinating. It was very fascinating.
Season 2 is twisted more so.
Yeah, I'd say season 2 is twisted. Tonally, it's a little different, and it's more. I would say it's more psychological. It definitely goes more to the psychological in a way that other like Stephen King books have done.
What was your biggest challenge with this role?
And I don't want to complain, but probably the amount of dialogue that I speak. It's monologues. It's pages and pages of dialogue, which are mostly me talking. So if you like my voice, you'll love this show. It's a little of both. It's some procedural stuff, but there's always a element of me, of me in it. So
Sorry, we have
okay.
to stop it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really good.
Are you getting? Can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Oh.
I'm like, I'm so backlit.
Not to worry, the sun won't bother you.
Would you mind saying your name and role for the...
My name is Breeda Wool, and I play Lou Linklater.
It's nice that you didn't get killed off at the end of season 1, which is always nice. What happens to her in season 2 when you tease?
Wait, before we talk about that, let me say how happy I am that I wasn't killed off. Because it is stressful when you're on a show where at any moment you get a script and they're beating you to death with a hammer, like puncturing out your eyeballs 28 days later style. But no, I didn't die. Very glad to be alive. Season 2 deals with the aftermath of being stabbed by your friend who I worked with for about 3 years longer, who was a secret serial killer and looked out for me, and we were friends, and we had a similar upbringing, a similar lifestyle, and where I thought he was my guy, I thought he was my friend, and he killed a bunch of people and then stabbed me in the stomach, and season 2 starts with me reckoning with that.
So, do you think Lou would be happy if he wakes up, or is she happy having him?
You know what? I attempted as an actor to even attempt to battle the notion of closure after a violent act, and I think that is something that is so complicated and individualistic to everybody who's been through something like that, to seek closure. And I don't know if I necessarily get that closure, or when you know, I think everybody has an idea of what should happen. You know, like if you have somebody come and take away all your power, do you go and confront them? What do you do when somebody assaults you and violently tries to kill you? Afterwards, there's a process, and everyone's process is different. It's like grieving, except the grief is for your own power and your own autonomy. And sometimes it's found by having Brady wake up and I confront him and tell him and what he did to me. And I'm sure if anyone's ever been through anything like that, you fantasize constantly, and it can keep you up at night. And there's PTSD, and there's like a tremendous amount of dealing when somebody comes and takes your power. And so that's part of my story in season 2.
Is there something that really helps you with that? Does she have a new best friend or somebody she can lean on?
There's some people. There's some people in my life in season 2, but I think one of the things about having your identity be ripped away from you is that it's pretty hard to trust people after. If you think about like Brady, taught me that my instincts are all wrong. So how in the hell do you? This is what happens with any sort of cheating, or any sort of betrayal. I've been shown that all of my instincts are wrong, which is So enjoy yourself. It seems very dark, but I hope that I said something about it. That I can say something about it, and that I can reflect that back to somebody else who's going through that. I don't know if I'm in this story in season 2 if I'm the best example of what you should do in that case, but maybe you don't always need good examples on TV. You just need to watch somebody else going through some shit to get.
Was it an easy transition from your role from Unreal to Mr. Mercedes?
I don't know. I don't know if anything's ever easy. I don't know if anything's ever easy. I feel like I don't know. They're both really both stories are really exciting and really cool. I think my experience with and I had a really supportive creative process on Unreal as well, and Sarah Shapiro and I just went back on season 4 and worked with Constance Zimmer, who directed the episode that I was in, and to see her go from one of the lead actors on the show to directing some of the series was like so satisfying. Maybe we'll see that on this show too. I don't know. Just kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding at all. But that would be cool. But I was excited to do a new project for sure. I was excited to do season 2 of this as well. And it was weird going back to Unreal. God dang, like 3 years later or something, going back up to Vancouver, and it was like same but totally different. It was neat though. It was really neat. Yeah, but this is I think each time you do a job, you learn. So I think Unreal prepared me for this role, and this role will prepare me for another role. And each one is like a learning process on how to be like better at handling on-the-job stress, better at remaining a professional, better at being truthful to the story without making it about you, or becoming, it's a art that is, I'm the subject. It's not like a painter where I like paint and then give the painting away. It's like my body, my face, my voice, and it can become narcissistic. And so you battle like it not being about you. It's about like the story in Unreal, and it's about and working with people like Brendan Gleeson. It's never, there's not a lot of like ego floating around that man. You tell a story and you tell it well, and that's all you got. That's the only game in town, basically. It felt pretty good. I had a lot of moments in this season in Charleston where I was like, this rules. Like, this is the coolest fucking job on the planet. I mean, I guess you get a stride, right? Where it's like, I think in any job, it's like, you try to measure your amounts of stress and happiness and gratitude and all that shit, and then you like hope that there's enough there for you to go. I did my best. I put my 2 cents in, and I'm proud of what I did. I think everybody seeks that. So maybe I've just become an adult enough to recognize that when it's happening, as opposed to be like, oh, I'm worried about this or worried about that, or like. And this team wants to make something good and cool, and so it's really fun to be with a group of people that want to make something good and cool. And I hope that like people feel that when we share it, and I can't wait to share it. I think it's going to be awesome.
I know we know that the story revolves around one part of the story revolves around the trying to wake up Brady so he can take more of his crimes. Does your
I want to know. That's a great question, because from where I'm standing, like if you were interviewing Lou right now, the answer would be, what fucking justice is there? Justice is for rich people.
You gotta have to decide. Cut you off mid-sentence.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wide awake.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm Justine Lupe, and I play Holly Gibney.
Holly was one of the most interesting characters this season.
Cool.
Same like season 2, she developed more.
She's definitely she's definitely blossoming and coming into her own in a new way. I feel like, I mean, how can you not grow or change after bashing someone's brain in? So there's that, but there's also just she's in this kind of new dynamic with Hodges that we kind of see evolve during the first season, but it ebbs and flows into something even more kind of nuanced than the first season. And I was, as the scripts came in, I was more and more surprised and pleased by the way that their relationship evolves, and consequently how she comes into her own during the second season.
Do you think she wants Breeda to look after her?
No, I think she's like, bye. What? He's awake. What?
She can kill him again, maybe.
Oh God, no. I think Holly's not a violent creature. I mean, that is one of the things that she kind of comes up against in the second season, is that she did this thing that is inherently in opposition to who she is and what she believes, and yet is in line with that as well. It's a real, she's done this thing that she's like, is, yeah, in opposition to who she is. So, no. I don't think she would want him to wake up. I think she's like, go away. You know, he's frightening, and she understands that he's someone who's done a lot of evil things and would not want anyone else to be affected by his crazy psyche.
Your character is going to be
Right. She started a business with Hodges. They've started this detective business called Finders Keepers, and she's really like killing it. She's really capable and good at what she does. So that's where we begin in season 2 with Holly. Yeah.
Without giving too much away, what is your favorite scene that you've done for the upcoming season?
Whoa. There's a scene in episode 206, where you see a shift in the dynamic between Hodges and Holly, and I loved it. It's a good scene, but I won't tell you what happened. Yeah.
Is Holly more interesting to play in season 1 or
The whole thing is so awesome. I love her. I love her so much. I feel like playing with that character has been an inspiring influence to have as me, as a person, because she's so special and thoughtful and uninhibited and that, yes, she has her little quirks and stuff, but that's what makes her awesome. And so I've had a really great time the whole way through, and I don't think that this season is any more or less fun. It's just all been kind of a treat. Yeah.
Learn more about me. And then the other people in my life where I come from.
I think her lack of inhibition in terms of like, she just sometimes just says what she's thinking, and like even in that first scene on the bench where she's like, my neck is hurting, so I'm gonna do this, and it's a weird thing, but it's also like awesome and not weird, and I love that about her. I love that she's kind of just like, this is how I'm feeling right now, and it's and people, you see these two men, Jerome and Hodges, embrace it, and when they embrace it, you see her thrive, you know, and she's just got a good heart and soul too, which is obviously, you want everybody to have a good heart and soul. Yeah.
So it seems like most people seem to be in a
Yeah.
but your character seems to be thriving. Why is that? Why is she in a different place?
Well, I feel like there's more to be said about that. You know, you have to watch the season to see where like the repercussions of doing such a violent thing come into play, because they do. It's in a quiet way and it comes out later on. But I don't want to give too much away. So I would say yes, she's doing very well, because she has these people who have allowed her to be herself, which is so important and also moving. And I feel like everyone should have someone around that like really gives them the space to be themselves and loves them for who they are. And so you see her really coming into that, but at the same time she is dealing with the repercussions of what it means that she did this thing that is so in opposition to who she is. Yeah.
What's the relationship with Holly and Jerome? How is that, or what is that, or what will we see in season 2?
Girl, you're asking me. I don't know. I'm also like, what's going on there? Like, is this a will they, won't they moment? Because they really do have a special relationship. But, God, it's so easy to just imply that there's something going on because men and women sometimes don't connect in the way that they do. But I think right now it is just this kind of earnest bond that they have, where they both are excited about who the other person is and all their little nuances, and they feel comfortable with each other, and they also support each other in their intelligence. Like, they're both excited by the other's brain, and so I just say they're a great team, and who knows what will happen. I don't know. I definitely get a vibe. Some people will be like, shame on you, they are just friends. Leave them alone.
But you had a chance to read the source material?
Oh yeah.
How comparable is the second season to the second book of
I would say don't expect them to be... They really stuck to the structure of the first book in a lot of ways, and I think the second book the second season is more of a mashup between the second and third book, and there's a lot of artistic license that Stephen King gave like full blessing to explore. So it goes off track, but it kind of pays homage to what's happening and in the way that Stephen wrote the second and third book. So it's going to be surprising for people. Yeah.
Is there anyone new that
Oh yeah. Yeah. There are a few people.
That was a quick answer.
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of what happens in the second season is there's a catalyst. There are two people that are kind of like the catalyst that like launch us into what happens in the second season. And I want so badly to just be like, and this is what happens, you guys. But I won't. I'll like have some self-discipline and just keep it under wraps.
But the books are great and they go together. I think that is super important.
She's an important component. I'll say that. She's not someone who's just tagging along and going for the ride. I think Holly's a pivotal role in the second season as well. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Nice to meet you.
How are you?
We're doing good.
Nice to see you made it.
Yes, I did.
There we go. Perfect.
Say your name and your role.
My name's Jack Huston. I play Dr. Felix Babineau in Mr. Mercedes, Season 2. Felix Babineau he's a brain surgeon, a neurosurgeon who has the rather impossible task of operating on Brady after his head has been caved in. And he not only saves his life, but sort of takes on the task of keeping him alive and, without giving any away, maybe taking it a little further. He's not. I don't think he's evil in any way. I think he's ambitious. I think he's. I was saying it's really interesting. It's like I think whatever profession you're in, you want to sort of take it as far as you can, do the best work you possibly can, and it's interesting when you're in the medical profession when you have certain things like FDA approved or like certain drugs that you can or can't use, but it can save millions of lives or something which you would maybe see as unethical, but if it did do well and things like that, suddenly it would be ethical and it would be saving. It's like it's the same question that one can ask themselves in anything. It's like how far are you willing to go? In his to save millions at the detriment of the few, I don't know.
It seems like Felix's wife is really the one who's pushing him.
Yes, we say Lady Macbeth.
So can you talk about that relationship?
Yeah, no, and it's lovely. Tessa Frey is so good as well. It's difficult. Well, at least we were coming onto the show as newbies, me and Tessa together, so we got to sort of build those roles together. But you can very quickly fall into a rather arch relationship when you've got a wife saying you must do this. But we were always, because we have the amazing Jack Bender, who was always trying to find the reality of the situation, keep it grounded, not go too far into the sort of psychological, the sort of supernatural. He was like, listen, this is just a young, ambitious couple who are driven, trying to do what's right by them, trying to further themselves. It's weird shit happens.
Have you done research on doctors before you take it on the role?
I mean, I've done research on doctors. I don't know how. I had a wonderful guy. I'm going to be awful with his name now because I should be giving him credit because I actually do a couple of surgeries in it, which I was like a little whiz kid with it. But yeah, no. I had to do quite a bit of research on what the hell I was saying because it was like the medical jargon. Sometimes I'd be like, saying some things. I'd be like, if I didn't research it, I would literally just look stone faced, like I have no idea what I just said. So an audience might not know either, so I might look like I know what I'm saying. But I did a bit, of course. I did as much as I could without actually becoming a doctor.
Were you familiar with the source material of the show? What did you know of Mr. Mercedes?
I'd seen the first season. I read the first book. I spoke to Jack Bender, who called me to ask me to play Felix, and we had a great conversation. And he told me he was doing a documentary on Leonard Cohen, so I was like, I'm in. So I was like, he's just cool as hell. I mean, Jack's brilliant. He's a creative, and he, I felt, it's, as far as pedigree goes for a show, when you've got David E. Kelly, Dennis Lane, Jack Bender, Brendan Gleeson, Harry Trevor, like all those people, you sort of hedge your bets, and I felt like that was a pretty good bet. So it was fun. It was a good one to come into, and it's just quite nice coming into something, a bit further down the line when you'd sort of seen how good. And it's always lovely when the originator is Stephen King, and you find out that he's a big fan of the show too. So you're like, you must be doing something right. So it was a cool one to be a part of. It was a bitch to get to Charleston from LA, and I got 2 kids, so I was having to fly a lot. But what do you do? The things you do for your work.
Speaking of ambition, talking about your character being ambitious, we know that the assistant DA is also very ambitious and wants Breeda Hartsfield alive. What's your relationship with his character, saying that's part of your job to keep him alive in that whole situation now?
Yeah, well, Max plays amazing. Oh my god, I'm really awful. He's called
Antonio.
Montez. Thank you, Montez. Exactly, the incredible Montez. Yeah, no, we actually have quite some good stuff because I think initially we're on the same page, and then we sort of veer off of it. So like we butt heads, but
Can you tell us why?
but no, not really. I can't. I'm afraid. No, I'm saying I think he wants him alive to prosecute him. I want him alive because that's my job. I want to preserve life. That's my oath. It's like to sort of like do what you can, completely blind to what the person is or what they've done in their past. That's what you are as a doctor. It's and that's the interesting part of it. So initially we have the same ambitions for Brady, and when things go a bit AWOL, we maybe butt heads. I'm doing my best here. I don't know.
So, Jack, how many Stephen King books have you read?
I've read quite a few Stephen King books. When I was at school, I mean, like like every other person was reading a Stephen King novel at a certain point. So yeah, he's like such a big part of my youth, and it's so funny because it wasn't just the books, but like all of those really freaky movies were coming out at that time. And now I'm like, man, I grew up because now they're remaking those movies. And I was like, normally I was at the age where I was like, oh, this is a remake, and now I'm like, I remember that movie. I remember the original. So it's kind of funny. I'm growing up, so when my kids say, have you seen it? I was like, which one?
That's going to be the next few generations from now.
Yes, exactly. Then we'll see. We'll be remaking them all over again. We'll see who's going to be playing Felix Babineau in the remake of Mr. Mercedes. Yeah. But big fan. I mean, who doesn't love Stephen King? And it's such an amazing moment right now with what's going on with this work. So it's very cool.
So who would you say he shares most of his scenes with? Is it his wife, or is it at work, or is there a combination of it?
Yeah, me and my wife, me and Brady, but not that there's much interaction as he's in a coma, but I still like to think that me and Brady were in a lot of scenes together. And Harry's so good. I mean, I tell you what, it's a hard task to lie there completely still with your eyes sort of half masked, staring out. It sounds like, oh, that sounds like a great one. What, you're in bed, you're not doing anything? I mean, it's amazing because there's a certain nuance, because there's something behind those eyes that he's still having to portray and get in there. Harry's wonderful. He had a very difficult task this season with what he did, and he goes for it full. I wouldn't be that easy. And then I'm trying to, but me and my wife, Tessa Ferrer, who's brilliant. We have most of our stuff together, and that was always good. She's great. She's a brilliant actress. She really pushes. We're always out for the truth. We were always taking the scene, and that's what's so great about Jack is, if the scene's not working, you don't have to go up and say, hey, the scene's not working. Like, he's right there with you. He's like, well, let's make it, let's work, and let's get it right. So it didn't feel precious. It felt like in that lovely collaborative way. It felt very collaborative. And that's the best set to be on, when you feel like it's a real build together. So that was very cool. All right, guys, thanks so much. Thank you.
My name is Jack Bender. I'm exec producer and director.
I guess I'll start off asking, there's obviously a huge task for this season because of the way the books are structured, with the main characters not being around for the first half, and basically all that stuff. How did you deal with that problem? Did you retain any of the characters from that first half?
The answer is no. In terms of the writer and the kids and all of that, which is brilliant. I love that book. But we wanted to start where the season ended, which we do. You guys haven't seen the first two. Do you like them?
Yeah.
Some people here haven't, but so the writers and I talked a lot about how to do that very thing, and it was tricky. So we did. one of the things that I thought was a responsibility of the show, which we touch upon during the season, is the ramifications of that kind of evil in the world. And, you know, whenever we do things that are shitty, and Brady is beyond shitty, you know, there are repercussions. And the idea that one horrible, violent act can affect so many and destroy so many lives and take so many lives was something that I really felt was important to try to touch upon. And certainly when you start with those other characters, it does. But we only could touch upon it, and then we decided to bring up some of the third book into the second season as we did, and really deal, because a lot of it had to do with how do we deal with our main characters and what are we going to do with Grady given where we left him. And so a lot of the season had to do with that, and we definitely, I walked a tightrope and felt it was really part of the most important part of my task was to walk a tightrope, because the series this season gets us a little more into Stephen Kingdom, as I call it, in terms of the mind and the capability of the mind and all this stuff we all live surrounded by. And yet I fought to keep the character first focus of the show alive and well, and that it first and foremost had to be about our characters, right? Even though it goes into I'm sorry, I didn't hear. So that was definitely something that I thought was essential, that we keep it first and foremost about these people. I mean, the way Hodges deals with the impossibility of what's going on is the way an everyman would. And part of the season, a big part of the season, is his struggle with coming to terms with what seems to be happening but is clearly impossible. And yet every character, including Babineau, played by Jack, and Tessa Farrar, who brilliantly plays his wife, the stuff that they do and the way they serve the story and drive it in certain ways had to also be from real people, and no cardboard villains or good guys, bad guys, whatever.
For the source material for this season, who gets to decide what stays and who gets to decide what changes from the source material for the season?
We do. I do, David Kelly does, and we get pretty left alone. DirecTV really is a great place to work in that they really trusted me to run the show, and I get good notes from them, and occasionally notes I disagree with and we don't do them, or we do them, but they really let us do the show we want to do, and yes, which is a gift, huh?
Talk about coming up with that visual style for Inside Brady's Head.
Well, I have to give credit to the writers. I don't have to. I want to. Because it was the writers who came up with the idea, and when we see Brady enter that lair, almost like an infant who's learning how to walk again and smell and see, and is very infantile. The writers came up with the idea that this season the lair would be his mind, which I thought was pretty brilliant. And it changes over the episodes in ways that you'll see. But it was the writers who came up with that conceit, and then I would do stuff they wrote and not do stuff they wrote. And that's my job, and that was great. And Harry and I just would frequently invent stuff, which was the way we always worked last season in the lair. From his dancing in that same episode, where he dances the Radiohead song, to all the stuff he does this year. There was a lot of inventing, and yet the writers paved the way for it with this is what his brain looks like, and this is where he can begin to think. and do what he's trying to do. So that was their notion.
It's very character-driven, of course. It's around Brady, but when we get to see actually dealing
As much as possible, it was, the first few episodes, in terms of outlines before they were written, were much too plotty. And I basically said, I want the characters, we got to slow down the plot. Slow it down, give us room for these characters, and let's see where they are now a year later. So I would say, yeah, in terms of Lou Linklater and what she suffered, and how her life was drastically altered by being stabbed literally by her friend, how Hodges was affected by the loss of Janie and everything he went through, Ida, and Holly, who's now come into her own more and become more adult, and how her relationships working with Hodges is complicated and grown up, and all that brings. So I think we spend a lot of time with our characters, both a year later from what they experienced and where they are now. And I fought for that because I feel that's the strength of our show.
Going back to
Yeah.
We're not apprised that Wally Herman version.
Right.
Are you still taking that same approach?
Yeah.
So it's
Yes. Yeah. I'd say so. Yeah. Trying not to exploit, exaggerate, or, from the first massacre, the way I did it was no action music, no slow motion. I don't want to amplify any of this. I just wanted to feel like, God forbid, if you were there, what would it feel like? What would it look like? And that's been the approach for the whole show. What, in terms of brain surgery, that Dr. Babineau and the shit that he's up to, it's like, we worked with a real brain surgeon. All right, what would this look like? And let's start with reality.
I wanted to know from season 1, were there any scenes that were produced that you wish that made air?
The what?
Were there any scenes that you produced in season 1 that you wish made the cut on air?
Probably, if I really thought about it, I'd say yes, but it wasn't because it was sanitized or censors. There are no censors. For the European distribution, which was odd because there were a lot of markets that were scared of it because of the initial massacre. And we had to cut a version that was a little pulled back from seeing all those bodies flying. Because I decided that, and they first and foremost are selling the original. But I basically said,